Edwards of Forwards Career Services, and today I actually wanted to give you a little bit of personal insight. And not that all my videos aren't from personal experience, but this one comes with a little bit more personal related experience. And that's because I am actually going to give you the top 10 questions that I ask in every pre-screen interview. And so if you're not familiar with what a pre-screen interview is, that's really the initial step that the employer would take prior to any in-depth, job-related, really tough interview series. And so sometimes that would be 2, 3, 4 interviews. But typically, someone's going to contact you first and try to get to know you a little bit better before they make a decision on whether or not have you meet with the hiring manager. Now, if it's a company that does not have a formal HR department, then the hiring manager is very likely going to ask you these questions. So let's dive right in. And the first question that I ask to every candidate is I ask them to tell me a little bit about themselves. And this is just a standard interview question. This is an opportunity for them to really kind of open up with me and for me to get to know them. This is also my first judgment period where I am going to be judging their communication, their verbal communication skills, typically over the phone. If it's in person, it would be the same. I'm also judging their communication skills with this question. This is also an opportunity to see what they are going to highlight from previous experience. So if these are just hourly positions, then this would be a short, quick answer that I would expect to get. If these were senior level managerial positions, even supervisor roles that I'm trying to fill, and I'm asking a candidate, tell me about yourself, I'm going to expect them to give me a little bit more in this question related to previous job experience. The second question I like to ask is, how did you learn about this position? The answer that is given is going to tell me whether or not someone is blindly job searching. So if they say, oh, I was looking on Indeed and I think I found it that way, that tells me that they may not necessarily be committed 100% to my company, but they are just trying to get a job. So it depends on how they actually did it. A good answer for this question would be, well, I've been job searching. I found the position posted on XYZ website, and I decided to dig a little deeper, and I got on y'all's website and learned a little bit more, and I thought that the job description fit my skill set and wanted to apply. So ultimately, what I'm looking for in this question is how committed they are to my company. The third question is, why did you apply for this position? And so this is kind of a part 2 to the last question of how did you learn about the position, but why did you apply for this position? And this is going to tell me what it is that stood out to them in the job description that they felt like they were confident in their skill set, and I know what my company is looking for in the right candidate. And so based on the answer that I get, that's also a qualifier for me to determine whether or not to push this candidate along to the hiring manager for a final interview. The fourth question is, why do you want to work here? And this is a good question because I want to know each candidate has done their research, looked online, and they know exactly what we do. And this will tell me a little bit more about what their motives are for joining the company. The fifth question that I like to ask is, what is one of your greatest professional accomplishments? And I love to hear people brag about themselves. I love to hear accomplishment stories. I think that this really kind of gets personal, and it gives an opportunity to the candidate to tell me a personal story and really highlight something that they are proud of and something that they've achieved throughout their professional career. And if it's an entry-level position, if it's a recent college or a recent high school graduate, I would want to know what their most proud accomplishment was during their schooling, whatever that was, if it was college or high school. So I would just rephrase that question just slightly for those that don't have any work experience. The next two questions I'm sure you've heard of before. The first one being, what is your greatest strength? And the second one being, what do you consider your biggest weakness? You can look up tons of videos and articles on how to answer this question appropriately. What is the right answer? And all I can say is really your weakness shouldn't be something that's not job related. Don't say, well, I binge watch Netflix a little bit too much on the weekends. Always relate it back to the job, whether it's, I'm a perfectionist, and so sometimes I may be reluctant to delegate a lot of responsibilities on a project. And so it may take me a little bit longer to complete something off of my checklist. But that's an honest answer, and that also is job related and a professional sounding answer. Your greatest strength, again, it's another opportunity to sell yourself and really highlight something that you are really proud of. If it's not your most proud accomplishment, this would be another opportunity to throw in an additional accomplishment, maybe something that is not on your resume, but definitely worth sharing during that initial interview. The next question that I ask is, why did you leave your last position? And this is also a very insightful question because I get to learn really what their rationale is for leaving either their current company and interviewing with us, and that's why they're leaving, or for whatever reasons. And there's a lot of good reasons for people to leave companies. So even if it wasn't the candidate's choice to leave, I still want to know that information, and this is an opportunity for honesty to come through during the interview. I will say, if you are not honest with this question, and typically this information does happen to come out at some point, so even if it was involuntary, I would advise that you answer this question honestly. The next question that I ask is question number 9, and this is, it really coincides with the fourth question of why do you want to work here? I ask, what do you know about my company? And I'm looking to see if this lines up with that fourth question of why do you want to work here, to find out if they really have done a deep dive and investigated the company that they've applied for. Do they really know what they applied for and who they applied to work with? As much as possible, as much as data is available on the internet, have they done all the research, and is it for the right reasons? And of course, my final question number 10, is what is your salary expectation? And previously I had mentioned if salary does come up during the initial conversation, that's a good sign, or a sign that your job interview went well. I mentioned that in one of my previous videos. I ask this question because I am a human resources professional, and it is my responsibility to handle the compensation piece in terms of making the job offer. Now, I need to get that information from the candidate in order to make a determination of whether or not to pass along the candidate to the hiring manager. So if the company that you are interviewing with may not have, if they don't have an HR representative, you may have this conversation with the actual hiring manager, and it may be during that first interview, it may be during a final interview, you may only have one interview. So each company is going to be a little bit different. I am typically honest in my interviews, and if the salary expectations don't lie within the budgeted range for the position that we have, I will tell them. I don't want to waste anybody's time. I don't want to waste the time of the candidate. I don't want to waste time of the hiring manager. No matter how much I may like a candidate, if we can't afford them, we can't afford them. Budgets are set for a reason, and that's a business decision. And just because I really like a candidate and they may be very qualified for the position does not mean that we as a company can afford to hire them. So I hope you guys have enjoyed my top 10 questions that I always ask in my pre-screen interviews. And I hope that you may have learned something, maybe learned a trick or two. If you are interested in working with me or learning a little bit more about the services that I offer, check me out on Facebook at Forwards Career Services, or you can check me out online at forwardscareerservices.com. I wish you the best of luck in your job search and best of luck in your next interview.